What's going on, Wired fam? How's everybody doing this evening? I need to put a hat on, don't I? I need a hat. Give me a hat. All right. I feel better now. What's going on, everybody? Y'all guys ready to talk about jig heads? I'm ready to talk about jig heads. I've got all my jig heads laid out here in front of me. I've been playing with them for an hour. I'm ready to go. So we're going to get into jig heads tonight. So last week on the show, one of the subscribers on the show last week asked about jig heads, if we could discuss jig heads and everything that I think about when I go into picking a jig head. So we're going to talk a lot about jig heads tonight. We're going to talk about not only size, we're going to talk about weights, shapes, sizes, hooks, blades. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff tonight when it comes to jig heads. Painted, unpainted, eyes, no eyes. A lot of good stuff we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. Let me say hello to everybody. If you guys don't mind, when you get on, drop me a hello. Say, let me know where you're from. Tell me where you're from. I always like to go through the comments there to see where everybody's from. Tells me kind of how far out we're reaching. I will tell you this. I just sent a wired shirt and a wired hat, wired for crappie shirt and hat out to Missouri tonight. So thank you to the gentleman that ordered those from Missouri. I appreciate you very much. And there is wired for crappie merch in Missouri now. So that's my first Missouri order, but that's pretty cool. So I've sent stuff to California, Missouri, Illinois, Florida, Georgia, all the southern states around Tennessee. I've sent stuff to Pennsylvania. It's pretty cool, guys. It's pretty cool. So thank you to everybody for that. If you have not seen the Wired merch, go to wiredforcrappie.com. You can check out all the Wired for Crappie merch there. It is on sale right now, guys. Wired for Crappie merch is on sale. So if you want to pick some of that up at a good price, check out the website, wiredforcrappie.com. And you can pick up some merch there. So let's say hello to everybody real quick. Also, while I'm thinking about merch, let's talk about our discount codes, guys. So always want to give a shout out to the sponsors every time I get a chance. Crappie Cove, I'm wearing the hat right now. Crappie Cove in Maryville, Tennessee. Also crappiecove.com. You guys can save 10% on all the products we talk about, the ones we talk about tonight, everything on the wall behind me. Crappie Cove has, okay, guys? They've got all kinds of good crappie gear, not just brands that I use on the channel, but other brands as well. So check out Crappie Cove. Wired discount saves you 10%. Fishing specialties, 10% on live scope poles, okay? If you got a live scope looking for a pole. And then stowaway mounts, 10% with the wired discount code to stowaway mounts. So stowaway mounts doesn't just do live scope mounts. Yes, you can put your live scope on it, but they also have mounts that you can put other units on as well, so you can get them off your deck and you can see them better. Okay, guys? And safety feature, they lay down onto the deck so that when you're running down, it's not vibrating to death, the wind's not hitting it, and you can see across the bow of your boat, so it's safe as well. Okay, guys? So go check them out. Save yourself some money, guys. Great products with those sponsors, and you can save yourself some money. So thank you to them. I appreciate that very much. Let's see who's on. Let's see. Dog Talk, howdy Matt from Amarillo, Texas. What's going on, man? Andy Perry, let's see. Andy Perry, what's up from South Alabama? What's going on, Andy? Solomon Ott, hey Matt from Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. Heidi Clark, what's going on, Heidi? How are you doing? Ashley Coffee, what's up? Nathan Wood from Wabash, Indiana. What's going on, Nathan? Mike from Lake Hartwell, South Carolina. That's one of my favorite lakes. I love going down to Lake Hartwell. It is slum full of fish. There's big fish in that lake. There's quantities in that lake. It's a beautiful lake. I can't wait to get back down there. So, love that lake. Been there several times. Spent many a day on Hartwell, and it's a blast. I do love it. So, Heath McDaniel says, good evening. Good evening, Heath. Tougaloo State Park area is my favorite on Hartwell, if anybody's wondering. The Tougaloo State Park area of that lake is my absolute favorite, and it's a giant lake, by the way. Josh Sanders, what's up, Josh? What's up, man? Jimmy Pratt, Jimmy, let me just say something about Mr. Jimmy Pratt for a minute. Hey, these steps at the house, at the Wired House, these steps out of the garage into the house look absolutely amazing. I'm telling you right now, I'm blown away. I'm blown away by the entire brick job that Mr. Jimmy did. But these steps are my favorite part. There's no doubt about it. Those steps, it was Mr. Jimmy's idea to have a straight side on one side and round it, and I absolutely love it. It is absolutely gorgeous. Love the steps. Every time my wife pulls in, she's going to probably admire those, and I know I will. It's in her garage. It's not in the shop. I'll live in the shop, but no, absolutely just fantastic, fantastic job. So if you're in the Maryville area, guys, and you need any stonework, brickwork, or block work, Pratt Masonry is who you need to contact. Mr. Jimmy Pratt. He is the man. I'm telling you right now. So thank you, Mr. Jimmy. I appreciate all the work you did, and it looks great. So you guys will get to see that. You guys will get to see that work that he did shortly. It won't be long. I'll be putting some more videos out on the house. The house is going really well. It looks like we're probably going to be in it sometime in September, early October, if all goes as planned. So we'll see what happens, but going really good. So let's see. Crappie Kev from Ashburn, Virginia. What's going on? Big O says, hello, Matt, Wired fan from Clarks Hill Lake, Georgia. What's going on, Big O? Ron Hall in Gatlinburg. Ron's in Gatlinburg this week, so he's about an hour from me. You're just right up the road, Ron. Dave D, what's going on from Lake Hartwell as well? A lot of Lake Hartwells in the house. What's going on, guys? How the fish down in Hartwell right now? Stephen Webb, Central Texas. What's going on? Rusty Prophet, hello, hello. Mike Morrison, what's going on? Another Clarks Hill. A lot of Clarks Hills and Lake Hartwells tonight. He says, hey, neighbor. Tom Wade says, good evening. Slab Buster, what's going on, Slab Buster? Kenneth Pippins, hello, hello. Dog Talk says, Crappie Cove, so he's talking about, has everything behind you except grasshopper stump bugs. Look, I'll tell you what we'll do, all right? I'll tell you what we'll do. Let me move these jigs out of the way. All right. For those that watch the show tonight, we'll give away a couple packs of grasshopper stump bugs. All right. A couple packs we'll give away at the end of the show. All right, guys. So if you're watching, don't fall asleep. And be ready. All right. Don't leave early. So we'll give those away at the end of the show. A couple packs of grasshopper stump bug. How about that? All right. Kenneth Pippins, hello. Andrew Alonzo, what's going on? Tom A, hello, from Pennsylvania. Scott Winkler from Westchester, Ohio. What's going on? Glad you enjoy it, Scott. I appreciate it very much. I enjoy doing it for you guys. So I enjoy being here, talking with the Wired fam every Wednesday, and I just enjoy being on here, sharing knowledge and chatting with you guys. So it's a lot of fun for me as well. Ronnie Harris, Carrollton, Georgia. What's going on, Ronnie? Matt Wiley, hello, hello. Jimmy Pratt said, thanks for all the kind words. You're very welcome. I appreciate you. You know, it's not just kind words, it's the truth. So, you know, I really enjoyed watching you guys put all that stuff up, and, you know, just the progress and seeing it come to fruition is really cool. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a blessing, and thank you for the work. And I know I have to pay you for it still. So I'm not trying to get, hey, Jimmy, can I get a discount since I said good stuff? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. Michael George from East Texas. What's going on? I'm turning red. I done opened my mouth, put my foot in it, so I'm going to move on. All right, Josh Sanders, do you use the platinum bonehead braid or the regular? I use the regular. Where's that? It's right here somewhere. All right, so I use the bonehead tackle B-power braid, just the regular. I do not use the platinum, okay? That's just the regular, and I use orange. You can use whatever color you want, but I use orange because it can tell my rods apart. Easier, better, more better, mo better. All right. Let's talk about jig heads, guys. So a lot of different types of jig heads. All right. Let's talk about a little bit about size first. So my 3 sizes that I keep in my box are 30 seconds, which I have some right here. So there's 3 sizes I keep in my box, and 3 sizes, pretty much the only 3 sizes I keep in my box. So I have a 30-second, okay? I'm gonna try to do this without poking myself. A 30-second, a 16th, which is right there, okay? That's a 16th. They look the same on the screen, but that's because they're painted chartreuse and they stick out. All right, so 30-second, 16th, and an 8th. Okay, those are the only 3 sizes that I keep in my boat: 30-second, 16th, and an 8th. All right. Now, some people are going to say, well, why don't you keep a quarter? Well, I'll tell you why. I'm a big believer in head to bait ratio as far as size is concerned, and it probably doesn't mean a hill of beans, okay? But it's in my mind, all right? So when I put a jig head on a bait, I don't want the jig head to be this big and the bait body to be this big. It's just something in my mind that says that don't look right to me, all right? So it's solely mental, I guess, but I can get everything done I need done with these 3 sizes of jig head, all right? 30-second, 16th, and an 8th. Again, I'll put these up here. 30-second, 16th, 8th. All right? So I can do everything I need with those 3 jig heads. Now, what do I do with each jig head most of the time? Okay? 32nd ounce when I shoot docks. All the time. If I'm shooting a dock, it's a 32nd ounce jig head. All right. Why do I use a 32nd ounce jig head to shoot docks? All right. I want a slow fall when I'm shooting docks. When I'm shooting docks, I want that jig to fall slow because I want that bait to present to those fish for as long as I can get it to presented to those fish. So if those fish are down 4 feet or 5 feet under the dock, when I shoot under there, I don't want to shoot an 1/8 under there because it's going to fall by those fish so fast they're not going to have time to react to it. Or I'm going to have to crank it so fast to keep it up in the water column that the fish aren't going to have time to turn on it and hit it. Okay? Always, always, always 16 or a 32nd ounce jig head under a dock. All right? Now, there is an exception to that rule where I will go to a 16th ounce. Okay? So I will bump up to a 16th under a dock certain times if I'm fishing really deep. So if I know those fish are down 20 feet under a dock, I'll go, like right now in the summer, I'll go to a 16th ounce just so I don't have to sit there and wait for the jig to get down to those fish. Okay. The jig will get down there a little faster, and then I can use my retrieve to keep that bait in front of those fish. As you retrieve a jig, guys, okay, as you retrieve a jig, it is going to raise. All right. There's no way you can retrieve that jig back towards your boat without it going up in the water column. It is going to raise in the water column, or rise in the water column when you retrieve that jig back to the boat, because you're above the jig. And when you're reeling in, it's coming back up towards you. So it is going to rise when you retrieve that jig. Now, a lot of times if you guys watch me on the videos, I'll crank that jig 2 or 3 cranks and then I'll stop. And I'll crank 2 or 3 cranks and I'll stop. A lot of times, guys, that's because I'm watching, or I know that that jig is coming up and I want to stay at a certain depth. So if I count my jig down to 20 and I start that retrieve 1, 2, 3, I've just come up probably 3 feet. And yes, it comes up that quick. That jig comes up 3 cranks of a reel, it'll come up 3 feet. So keep that in mind. I always keep that in mind. And I'm talking if you're not fishing with live scope, okay? A lot of guys, if you're fishing with live scope, you can watch it, okay? But if you don't have live scope, you've got to keep in mind that jig is going to rise in the water column as you retrieve it. All right, a heavier jig head does help that. So that 16th ounce when you're fishing deep will help keep it down a little bit, but you just have to remember to fish slow, okay? Slow. I want to fish slow when I'm fishing under docks. That's the biggest thing about fishing under a dock. If I could tell anybody anything, it'd be fish slow, because those fish are under that dock. If you're not fishing under the dock, you're not going to catch fish. Keep your jig under that dock for as long as you can, okay? So then the 16th ounce, where do I use the 16th ounce? Most of the time. Most of the time, I use that 16th ounce when I'm fishing brush, okay? If I'm fishing brush and I'm fishing deep brush, and I'm talking below, 15 feet or more. If I'm fishing brush in less than 15 feet, I'm going to throw that 32nd ounce again. That way, I can control that jig a little bit better. It's not falling as fast, doesn't get down there to the brush as fast. I can keep it above brush a lot easier. I don't get hung as much with the 32nd. So, but I will go to that 16th ounce, okay, when I'm fishing brush and deeper than 15 foot, okay? Now, the 8th ounce. This is probably the least used jig size for me out of any other one in my box. Out of any jig in my box, an 8th ounce head is probably the least used. What do I use an 8th ounce for? Just straight vertical jigging. That's the only thing I use an 8th ounce jig head for. When I'm fishing straight up and down in cover. Now, one thing you're going to notice, about 90% of my 8th ounce jig heads have a light wire hook. All right. Now, that hook, if I reach up here and I grab the point of this hook with my finger, okay, it will literally bend out with no pressure. I mean, no pressure at all, guys. I mean, and I'm trying to do this in front of the camera and I just poked myself. But absolutely no pressure, okay, bends that hook out. Every one of my 8th ounce jig heads has a light wire hook in it. Well, 90% of them. Reason being is because I'm vertical jigging straight up and down the majority of the time in brush piles with that 8th ounce jig head. And when I get hung, because I'm going to, when I get hung, I want to be able to pull that jig out. Okay, I don't want to be breaking off 8th ounce jig heads all day long and not be able to pull them out of the brush pile. Okay, so light wire hook in those so that I can get them out of the brush. Okay, now you guys have seen me some on videos. I will vertical jig around docks at times or marinas. If fish are in the corner of a marina and I can get to those fish, let's say there's a pole in the corner of the marina and I can get in there and vertical jig that pole. A lot of times I'll do that in the winter when fish are sluggish and you really have to hold that bait in front of them. I will vertical jig marinas a lot of times. So those are the 3 sizes that are the majority in my boat. Now I do have other size jig heads. Okay, guys, I've got some, where are they at? I said I did. Yeah, hear that. So I've got some different size jig heads. I've got some 3/32. Okay. Those are some 3/32 jig heads that I've got. And I've got some, I think I've got some, I don't know where they went. Anyway, I've got some 24ths as well. But the majority are 16th, or 32nd, 16th, and 8th. That's about all I use. Okay. Just keep it simple, guys. Keep it simple. Now, let's talk about the actual jig head, the difference in the head of the jigs. Okay. So there's different shapes of head. All right. So you got, obviously, you got the round head. All right. That's your standard round head. That is a barbed jig head. Okay. It has barbs on it. You'll have some with barbs and you'll have some without barbs. A lot of guys like a jig head that does not have a barb. Okay. So that's a 16th ounce with a barb. And then that is a 16th ounce with no barb. It's just straight head and hook. It's barbless. There's a barb. That's your barb right here. Okay, guys. That is a crappie magnet double cross, which actually has 2 barbs. You can see one on either side. That's actually my go-to jig head. Okay. The crappie magnet double cross in 16th and 32nd is my go-to jig head just because I like that double cross. It holds a bait well and they've got a good hook. So that's my go-to. But I have a lot of other different jig heads as well. Mr. Curtis Hobbs, I've got bukus and bukus of Mr. Curtis Hobbs. Actually, all of these in these little packages are Mr. Curtis Hobbs at Lightwire. So, you know, I have a lot of different hooks, but the 1/8 ounce jig heads that I use are all from Curtis. The reason being is because I want that light wire hook. Okay, guys. And you can see the difference in those 2 hooks. Okay. You can see that is a standard shank hook and that is your light wire. You can just see how much thinner it is. It just bends out easier. Okay, so round head, that's your round head, your standard round head. Most of the time when you see a jig head, you see 2 different types. You see a round jig head or you see an aspirin head. Okay, an aspirin head, I'm going to show you a couple different ones. So an aspirin head, and these are all things that you need to know, guys. If you call somebody like Curtis, you call, Mr. Lightwire and you say, hey, I want some hooks. And he's going to say, okay, what do you want? And you're going to say, well, I don't know, chartreuse ones. And he's going to say, okay, what head do you want on them? You want an aspirin head? You want a round head? You want a minnow head? He's going to ask you all those things. This is going to help you make those decisions. Okay. So aspirin head. All right. It is the back and front are round, just like a round head. Okay. Back and front are round, but the sides are flat. See that how that's flat right there, guys? That is an aspirin head. Okay, it looks like a little aspirin sitting on top of the jig. Again, it's barbed. There's a barb on that, and it is a light wire because these are from Curtis. All right. So that is an aspirin head. Another aspirin head that you guys probably have seen is one that's not as round on the front and the back. Okay. So that is not as round. It's just more, it's not as rounded off. It's more squared off, but it's still an aspirin head. And the reason people use aspirin heads most of the time is because you can put an eye on them, just like that right there. That's one of the ACC hooks, one of the ACC jig heads. They all have green eyes on them because ACC sells green rods. They put green eyes on all their jigs. But that is the main purpose of an aspirin head, is to be able to put an eye on it or to paint an eye on it. Okay. And we're going to talk about eyes in a minute. We won't go down that rabbit hole right now. We're going to do head shapes, then we'll work our way to that. All right, let's see if you guys have any questions real quick. Dog Talk says, come on, guys. He's giving away jigs. Give him a thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button. Thank you, Dog Talk. I appreciate it. Smash that thumbs up button, guys. That just lets everybody know that you like the content, you like what we're talking about, and it's helpful, right? So smash that thumbs up button. I appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed and you're watching tonight, okay, subscribe to the channel, please. We got a 10,000 subscriber giveaway coming up. We're trying to get to 10,000. My goal at the beginning of this year was to get to 10,000 by December. I think we can do it, guys. We're only like, I don't know, 1,600 away or 1,700 away or something like that. So smash that subscribe button, please. That gets you entered into our 10,000 subscriber giveaway. And I am giving away a 2-day guided fishing trip with me in East Tennessee. All expenses paid. All you have to do is pay for your gas to get to East Tennessee and pay for your food while you're here. I'll cover the rest. I'll cover the motel, boat, fishing license, everything. So smash that subscribe button, please. But thank you, Dog Talk. And smash that thumbs up. Matthew Kofelt. Hey, Matt, thinking about going to Telco this weekend. Where about would be a good ramp to put in? Good ramps. Island Creek's a good ramp. Clear Creek's a good ramp. Notchy Creek has had some issues. They've had some theft issues down that way, but it's a good ramp. You just have to worry about issues a little bit. But those would be the ramps I'd put in at any of those three. Crappie Kev, what plastics do you use on shooting docks? So, of course, Crappie Kev asked this question because my video that posted this week, if you watch that video, guys, and I have to say this because if I don't, it's going to be in the comment section in a minute and probably already is. But I typically use a bonehead tackle stump bug when I'm shooting docks. That is my go-to bait, guys. Everybody knows that. It's no secret. My go-to bait's a stump bug. But I also use crappie magnets because I used them on my last video. And if I don't say something, then I know one person on here specifically is going to. So I did use a crappie magnet last video because I've been told that I don't use them and been made fun of, which I do use them. They are in my boat. I am a tournament crappie angler. And if I can get an edge with something, I will have it in my boat. If I need to have it, I will have it. I fish tournaments. I have to make fish bite. So I do occasionally shoot docks with a crappie magnet if a stump bug is not getting it done. But generally, 99% of the time, a stump bug gets it done. That is typically what I use. Let's see. Mike Morrison says, Matt, I'm shooting docks some this weekend at Clark's Hill. What depth should I concentrate on with water temps 86 degrees? Main channel docks, Mike. Fish every dock on the main channel that has more than 15 foot of water under it. I would set my Navionics to 16 feet plus and shade it in a color, and I'd hit every dock that color was under. Okay, that's what I would do. Andrew Alonzo says, I liked the double barbed. Ashley says, first thing he noticed when using live scope was how much a jig moved in the water to reeling and twitching. It showed me I need to slow down a lot. If you think you're fishing too slow, slow down, guys. That's typically what I tell people when they come on a trip with me is when they go on a guide trip and they say, am I reeling too fast? And I say, if you have to ask, slow down. And they're like, okay. I was like, I'm just telling you, you can't fish too slow. Well, unless you're not moving and your jig's on the bottom. But you get what I'm saying. Slow down. Slow down. Jimmy Pratt says my favorite head this month is one with a live minnow on it. That's right, Jimmy. That's right, buddy. Jimmy's been wearing them out, guys, on minnows. So I've got a minnow show coming up very soon. You guys will see that drop, and I'm telling you, they are in the heat of summer when those fish, when the water gets above 85 or 80. Those fish just get shocked. I mean, they're just like, and it's kind of like the same thing they get in the winter when it gets below 30. They're just dead to the world. So a minnow in their face, I'm telling you, it gets them going. There's no doubt about that. Live bait. Crappie Fisherman says, hey, Matt, ask Crappie Cove to get some of those hats back in that you are wearing. Been trying to get a couple for months. They either discontinued them or quit selling them. Thanks. I will make a phone call tomorrow. And I will see if I can get a few more in for sure. I'll tell you what. Let me put my Crappie Fisherman. I'm going to put my email in here. Do me a favor. Shoot me an email right there to info@wiredforcrappie.com. Shoot me an email with your information in it, your name and a contact number. That way when they get them in, they can give you a call, or I can give you a call. Somebody will give you a call, okay? All right, back to jig heads, guys. So we talked about two different sizes or two different shapes. We got the round head and the aspirin head, okay? So round and aspirin. Now, let's talk about the next. Where's it at? Let's talk about the next shape. Mr. Jimmy will like this one. Mr. Jimmy will like this one. Get out of there. Or off there. Get off there, you stinker. All right. Well, find it. A minnow head, guys. And I'm going to, this minnow head specifically has a blade on it, so I'm not going to show you the blade. Minnow head. All right, that is your minnow head. Now, see how skinny that head is? They call it a minnow head because it's skinny, like a minnow. All right, so that head fits the body of a minnow. Again, I'm not one of those guys that likes, a big old wonking, round, gargantuous head on the end of a little bitty crappie plastic. All right, it just doesn't look right to me. It doesn't look natural. So, a minnow head, it's slim, sleek, and it glides through the water. Now, why did it get the name minnow head? Again, I think it's because of the slim nature of it. If Mr. Curtis Hobbs was on here, he could probably tell us where that name came from. Or it could be that it doesn't displace as much water when it's moving through the lake. A round head, when you pull this round head through the water, it's displacing the water that's hitting the front of the head, right? So there's drag on that head. This head right here, there's not as much drag when it's coming through the water. There's not as much drag on it. And your aspirin head is kind of in the middle. So, it's got a little drag, but not as much drag as a round head does. Okay. Next, the next one, I'm going to give you my term for this head. You guys probably have another term for this head. Some guys call them Roadrunner heads. They're not Roadrunner heads. They're actually called a pony head. Okay. That is your pony head. All right. Now, they have pony heads with blades. They have them without blades. This one this one has a blade on it. This just so happens to have a blade, but that is your pony head, okay, guys? So again, if you call a jig maker and you say, hey, I'm looking for a pony head, that's what you're going to get. Minnow head, very similar to a pony head, but even a lot slimmer, okay? Very, very slim head. Great trolling head. If you want to troll, hey, there's Mr. Curtis Hobbs. Hey, Curtis. He says, think I recognize that minnow head. Yeah, you do. You do. That is a light wire special from Mr. Curtis Hobbs. Yep. So minnow head. Okay, guys. Minnow head, pony head, aspirin head, round head. Those are your main jig heads. And Mr. Curtis, if I forgot one, let me know. But those are your main shapes of jig head. Okay. There's some other stuff out there. Obviously, the eye-hole jig and some of these other companies that are making jig heads, but your main shapes are right there. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about a bladed jig head and why do you use a bladed jig head? What does a bladed jig head do for you? And let's talk about the different types of blades that are on jig heads. Okay, guys? Andrew says, I hear the aspirin head shows up more on live scope because of the flat surface. What's your thought? I disagree. I disagree 100%. Live scope doesn't show flat surface, it shows surface area, right? So if I was going to say what has more surface area, to me, it would be a round head. So, Andrew, look at it like this. If you cast your jig out, okay, and you're shooting your live scope, and your jig falls like this, all right, then that right there, this side is all you're picking up, all right? To whereas if you cast that round head and it falls like that, look how much more jig head is going to show up, okay? So if that jig is falling straight towards you, which a lot of times it will be, because I always let my jig fall on a slack line. A lot of people don't. A lot of people like to pendulum their jig on a taut line so they can see that line jump. I can see the line jump on a slack line most of the time. But if that jig's falling perfectly away from you, that's all you got. Okay? Whereas if you're fishing with a round head, you got all that. Okay? So, my opinion would be a round head is going to show up better on live scope because there's more surface area. I mean, that's simple math, I think, in my mind. Now, math was my strong suit in school, but I didn't pass it with all A's, so I don't know. I'm just a dumb country boy. What do I know? But surface area to me is what shows up on live scope. Mike Morrison says the minnow head is what I used when long lining. Yep, really works good for me. So when you're long lining, guys, a minnow head, they used it people use it. Curtis uses it a lot long lining. I've noticed that. He's got it in a lot of his posts and things. They pull them because they glide through the water. Your bait won't raise up. You get a true depth on your bait, and there's just no drag. So it doesn't create drag. A lot of people like them to long line, for sure. Jimmy says, I've used a 1/4 ounce head a few times when high winds and over 20 foot deep. There are times where a heavier jig would help you if you were fishing deep, but if I get up into winds that strong, it's generally on a tournament day, because if I get up into them that strong when I'm fun fishing, I'm going home. But on a tournament day, if that happens, I do carry a split shot, and I also carry like bell sinkers, and I'll go to a presentation where I have a bell sinker on the bottom and a jig, 12 inches above it or 14 inches above it, and I'll drop down that way. And that way I can get in the brush and not get hung up. But that's a whole different conversation for another day. So, but yes, you will need, if you're fishing deep in high winds, you will need a little heavier weight for sure. Or you can go to 2/8. You can use 2/8. If you're vertical jigging, you can use 2 jigs and go to 2 1/8 ounce jigs. which is a quarter. See, I'm okay with math. Blah. Andrew says I can't tell a difference. And most of the time you probably won't as far as aspirin around, but I would think around would show it better in my opinion. All right, so let's talk about blades. So bladed jig heads. There are several different types of bladed jig head, guys, or blade for jig heads. Most of the time, you're going to see them on a pony head or a Roadrunner head. I have Roadrunner heads. The thing I don't like about Roadrunner heads, and I'll show you. I ain't afraid to show you. I'll tell you exactly what I don't like about a Roadrunner head. If you guys look at that Roadrunner head, look how small that hook is compared to this one. Okay? So I don't know if you guys can tell. I need to put them beside each other, don't I? Or behind each other. And this is more difficult than I thought. You're not going to be able to see it. All right. I don't like the heads on a Roadrunner because they are extremely, extremely small. Okay. I just like a larger hook. All right. So I get a number 2 hook on these. Most of the jigs that I use are number 2 hooks. I do have number 4s, but most of what I use is a number 2. But let's talk about the blade. Back to the blade. I'll get off topic if I ain't careful. All right, several different types of blades, guys. There's a Colorado blade and a willow blade. So what's the difference? A willow blade is that one right there. It's long, it's skinny, okay? That is your willow blade. Come on. Okay. That's a silver willow blade. Now, they also make a gold willow blade. Okay. And that actually is dimpled. So you see the dimples on that willow blade? That's so it reflects light in different directions. Okay. There is also a Colorado blade, which is that one right there, which most of your Roadrunner heads have that Colorado blade on them. Do I use these for crappie fishing? All the time. All the time. When I'm casting brush piles or trolling, it's a great, 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 great addition to a trolling setup. And it's a good addition to a casting setup if you're swimming a jig. If you're dead sticking a jig, I like to cast a jig when I'm using a Roadrunner head, okay? And I'm generally casting brush. I use a light wire hook a lot of times as well on my pony heads with a blade because I'm casting brush. And when you're casting brush, you're making a cast beyond the brush pile, letting it fall down below the fish, and then you're reeling that jig at an angle up through the fish. And when it comes by them and it gets right above them, they'll run out and grab it. So it's a technique that you're constantly cranking and you're bringing that jig by them, and that blade's sitting down there spinning the whole time. So what is the difference between a willow blade and a Colorado blade? Okay. If you're fishing, all right, pet peeve of mine. If you're fishing clear water, guys, okay, clear water, always, always, always willow blade, okay? Willow blade in silver, clear water, silver blade. All right, why is that? Okay, because a silver blade will not reflect as much light as a gold blade will. You guys can see that just me flashing that around in front of the camera. Okay, gold blade is for dirty water. Silver blade is for clear water. Okay. Also, in clear water, I do not want to be very aggressive with a blade. A Colorado blade is going to displace more water, and it's going to have a larger flash because of the blade itself is wider. Okay, so you're going to get a lot more flash out of a Colorado blade. Okay, and displacement noise than a willow blade. Willow blade's going to come through the water. It's not going to have as much flash. It's going to give you just enough flash in clear water that it attracts those fish, gets their attention. Okay, so you can see just by me shaking that willow blade, you get a flash every once in a while, a little flash off the corner, but it's not very aggressive. This is going to be more aggressive. All right, you're going to get a lot more flash out of that Colorado blade. Okay, see that? Now I'm trying to do this with a light that's above my head, but there you go. A lot more flash coming out of that Colorado blade. Okay, so clear water, silver blade, willow blade. Dirty water is when I'd go to a silver Colorado blade or the gold willow blade. Okay. All right. Let's see what you guys have to say. Ashley said he adds split shots too, and it's high winds or deep. Also gives 2 points of reference to see on live scope. It does. Yep, no doubt. All right, the next thing, and this is probably one of the biggest, one of the largest discussed. We're not going to call it argued. We're going to call it one of the biggest discussions, not arguments, of Andrew said you. Oh, sorry, that's an old comment. Never mind. All right. One of the biggest discussions is eyes on jig heads. Okay. Now, I know Mr. Curtis probably has his opinion here. Josh says he likes adding split shot too. Mr. Curtis probably has his opinion. I have mine. I'm going to voice my opinion. Eyes on jig heads. Okay. You have different types of eyes. You have the glued on eyes, like that ACC jig head. It is a glued on eye. Okay. And then you have, well, this is a Roadrunner head. This is a Roadrunner Pro head, which has a stick on eye. Okay. And then you have a painted eye, like this one right here, where it's painted a different color. Or you've got, a white eye, something like that. And then, of course, Old Faithful, just the standard old no eye colored jig head. The debate is always, is it better with an eye, not better with an eye? I don't think one is better than the other. I'll say that. If I have a jig head with an eye on it, I'm not going to grab it before I grab one without an eye on it. Okay? Again, this is personal preference, okay? Don't shoot me down when I'm preaching good. This is just personal preference. But I haven't been able to see a difference in a jig head with an eye and a jig head without an eye. It just, to me, I've never been able to notice. I've never been standing beside somebody that's fishing with a jig head, the same color, same jig with an eye, and me fishing the same color, same jig without an eye, and see a difference in catching fish. Now, I have been standing beside people when a bait makes a difference, an action of a bait or a color of a bait, and a jig head color I've seen make a difference. But I hadn't seen any difference with an eye or not an eye, okay? So I just say that because if you have jig heads without an eye, look, a lot of times I'm using an unpainted jig head. I mean, if you guys look in my box, I've got all kinds of pony heads without paint on them. If you guys, this is my actual box that came out of my boat, okay, to come in here tonight. And you guys can see I've got unpainted jig heads here. I've got unpainted jig heads here. Unpainted jig heads don't bother me, not one single bit. I got unpainted right here. I've got all kinds of jig heads that are unpainted, and I catch fish on them all the time. Silver is a color. Lead is silver. Silver is a color. Okay. Most shad that I've seen are silver. So I don't necessarily think that. I actually had one guy that commented one time. He said, playing with those unpainted jig heads is going to give you lead poison. He did. I'm moving on. So I fish with an unpainted jig head all the time, guys, and I catch just as many fish on an unpainted jig head as I do painted. All right. But my go-to is a chartreuse jig head. Everybody knows that. I've preached that before, so we won't go into that, but that is my go-to color. What color jig head do you guys like? You guys tell me what color, because this is what I want to see, okay? We got 65 people on right now. I bet you if all 65 people put a comment in there right now, I bet you there'd be 40 different colors. Or at least half. I bet you there'd be at least 33 different colors. No doubt. Favorite color jig head, eye or no eye? Color jig head, eye or no eye? And if you do have an eye, what color's the eye? Let's see the comments. I'll read them as they come in. I guarantee you there'll be a lot of different ones. All right. So I'm not necessarily a huge have to have a certain color jig head guy. I'm not a huge believer in, I mean, look, if you guys look at my eighths, see if I can hold these up and you can see them with it closed. This is my eighth box. I mean, look at all the different colors in my eighth box. I've got pinks, I've got black, I've got purple, I've got green, I've got more pink, chartreuse, red, white, chartreuse, white, pink, chartreuse, white, pink and white. I mean, I've got all kinds of different colors. Okay. I'm not a huge believer in it has to be a certain color. What I like to do is I like to contrast my bait. So if I'm using a chartreuse bait, I like to use like a white head or a pink head or something that's not chartreuse. If I'm using a red and silver bait, I'll use a chartreuse head. I like to contrast the jig, okay? I don't want the same color head as I have my jig. I want to vary those colors because if fish are keying in on a certain color, it may be pink that day. You may have a pink head, and they'll hit that jig just because you have a pink head on it, okay? So I like to vary my colors. I'll tell you what, I have some jig heads here. These actually came from Curtis as well. I've had these for years. He sent me these. This is an aspirin head with a #1 hook. This is for you guys down there in Mississippi or Fork down in Texas. This is your jig head right here. Ain't no doubt about it. It's a #1 eagle claw. It is a hard, I mean, just a very firm, stiff shanked hook with an aspirin head, and it is painted beautifully. Look at that, guys. It's like a June bug, and I love that jig. I've actually caught a lot of fish on that jig. I'm actually probably going to get some of those in a #2, and I see Curtis on there right now, so I'll holler at Curtis and probably get some of those in a #2. I do like that paint. That paint is absolutely beautiful, and I am partial to that paint. So, because I've caught a lot of fish on it. It's got a lot of glitter in it, a lot of shine. It's a very good jig head. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, guys, you know, don't get hung up on eyes, no eyes. Don't get hung up on colors. You need to have a lot of different colors, but you need to have those different colors so that you can contrast your jig color. Okay. Different sizes. Depending on how you fish and how you want to fish, you know, if all you have in your boat is 1/8 ounce jig heads because all you do is single pull, with live scope, and you got 12-foot rods and that's all you do, and then somebody says, hey man, let's go shoot docks one day, and you don't have any 32nd ounce jigs in your boat, it's going to be hard to shoot docks with an 1/8 ounce jig head, I'm telling you. So, you know, let's say you go on vacation, go to a lake, and, you know, they're on docks and you can't catch them any other way, like down at Weiss or over at Hartwell or what's that other lake over there? that is just crazy for docks. Golly, I can't think of it now. I went there 3 years ago. Anyway, go to a lake that's nothing but docks, and you're going to need 32nd ounce jig heads. So it's good to have a variety of sizes. 32nd, 16th, and 8th can get you through anything, any type of fishing you want to do, trolling, casting, jigging, vertical, whatever you want to do, pitching, casting. Those jig heads will get you through anything, and have those in an assortment of colors, eye or no eye, just, whatever it is you guys like. All right. I see some comments coming in. Let's see. What's everybody got? So Pete says, I power paint a lot of my jig heads chrome. Our crappie love that chrome head. So there you go. There's one, chrome. Pink, there's two. Chrome, red, and pink. Okay, red, so there's 3. Chartreuse, 4. Black, 5. Silver, can we call silver chrome? I think silver is a different color than chrome. So we're going to call that 6. We're at 6, right? Pink, no eyes. No eye. Pink, unpainted, 7. Mike says, what's the best size to long line? Well, it depends on what depth you're trying to long line at, Mike. So if you're trying to long line at 8 to 12 feet, then it'd be 2 16th ounce jigs. If you're trying to get down to 12 to 18 foot, then it'd be 2 8th ounce jigs. If you're trying to be 4 foot to 8 foot, 10 foot, somewhere in that range, depending on speed, then 2 32nd ounce jigs. It just depends on where you're trying to get those jigs down to. Okay. Depends on what size jig head you need to use. Silver, no eye. Chartreuse with a black eye. Unpainted, no eye from Miss Heidi. Chartreuse or orange, no eye. So there's orange. Pink, no eye. Here's Mr. Curtis. Hey, he's got a bunch, I bet you. Chartreuse, orange, red, pink, black, white, contrasting eyes. Yep. I knew Mr. Curtis liked those eyes. I knew he did. Mr. Curtis is a believer in the eye. There's no doubt about that. You can tell that from his jigs. Look, there's orange with an eye. Orange and chartreuse with eyes. There's just about every color he makes with eyes. Eyes. I can do it all night. Eyes. So, yeah, I know Mr. Curtis likes them eyes. And, hey, they work. I mean, you catch just as many fish. So, it's not that they don't. They work. I love them. Love them. All right. Pink, no eye. Pink, no eye. A lot of pink. White with black eyes. There's white. Andrew says, that's what I need to do. Boxes based on size. I've got a row think going. Okay. I generally keep my 16ths and 32nds. So my 16ths and 32nds are in one box because that's what I use the most. So right there's all my 16ths and 32nds. Like I said, I keep those in one box just because that's what I'm in the most. And then I keep an 1/8 ounce box. It's got all my 8s in it. So, I try to keep it light. I don't carry, obviously you guys can see, I don't carry all my jigs with me every day. I carry enough to get me through a day and then some. Because let's face it, there's enough jigs in that box right there. I don't think I've put any jigs in that box in a year, but I don't know. I don't remember. And then I've got jigs up there, obviously, that I fill that with. And all Mr. Curtis's jigs here on my table that I keep in my drawer right here, in my fishing drawer. So I replenish that box when those get low. And then I call people like Mr. Curtis and Crappie Magnet and say, hey, I need more jig heads. And I pay them and get my jig heads. So anyway, I have, that's my method. I keep them in a box in my boat, and I try not to put an overabundance in there, because I do believe after so long they will, the hooks will get dull bouncing around in that plastic and beating up against the walls and stuff like that. They'll get a little dull. And then one other thing that I have noticed is if you have a clear box like I have, okay, and you leave it out on your deck of the boat in the sun, these jigs will bleach, guys. The color of these jigs will turn. You will notice that chartreuse is probably one of the worst, but let me show you guys this. So this is a jig that's been in there a while. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell this or not, but that is a jig that has not been in there a while. Can you see the difference in color at all? Chartreuse, probably not. But I'm telling you, there's a difference in color. They fade. They fade bad. So anyway, the sun will bleach them out. No doubt. So if you have a clear box, keep it in the shade. Big O, a little something to keep you in the water. Thank you, Big O. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. Guys, if you don't know what a super chat is, it's a way for you guys to give back to the channel to help keep me on the water, just like Big O's talking about, making good content for you guys. And I appreciate it very much, Big O. It's a blessing. Every super chat that comes in is a blessing to me and this channel, and I appreciate it very much, buddy. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. All right, let's see. Where were we at on the eyes here? White with black eyes. White with black eyes. Jig heads that are different color than my bait. Honestly, probably use pink the most, with chartreuse second. Ron says first one I can grab. That's right. Especially if the fish are biting. So if you pull up on a brush pile and the fish are just wham, 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 and you break off, I'm grabbing the first jig head my finger touches, and I'm jerking that joker out, and I'm putting it on. I'm throwing another jig on there, and I'm gone. I'm the same way. And then sometimes they won't hit it. It's weird. Sometimes they won't hit it, and it's like, what happened? You got to go back. But every once in a while that happens. Jeff says unpainted 90% of the time with no eyes. Dave D, any recommendation on where to buy jigs? Crappie Cove is out of a lot of the 1/32 and 1/16 ounce sizes. Yes, Mr. Curtis Hobbs light wire hooks. So if you go, Dave, if you go to lightwirehooks.com or just go to Google and type in light wire hooks, Mr. Curtis Hobbs will pop up, and you can check out his website. You can hit Mr. Curtis up on Facebook, Curtis Hobbs or Lightwire Hooks on Facebook, and he can help you out. Call him, holler at him. He'll ask you what you want. He'll ask you size. He'll ask you color. If eyes or no eyes, right, Mr. Curtis? He'll ask you what hook you want in them. I mean, that's the good thing about Curtis is he'll say, hey, what hook do you like? Do you like an eagle claw, a mustad? And then if you want something now, Dave, and you say, hey, I need hooks now, I can't wait on them to be poured, he'll say, okay, this is what I have in stock. I can send you these. I got this many. It's got this hook, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Curtis is great with it. So I would recommend Curtis Hobbs every day of the week. He's a really, really good guy. And guys, look, I'm not sponsored by Curtis. I buy my hooks from Curtis just like you guys do. I love hooks from Curtis because I've been using them since literally I've been using his hooks for a decade. Okay. I just love Mr. Curtis's hooks. I love Mr. Curtis to death. He's a great guy, and he'll do you right. And his prices are great. His hooks are great. I don't have any issues with him. So that's why I recommend you guys to him, because he's just a good dude. All right. Makes good hooks. Tom Wade, thanks for another great session. A lot of great info. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Thank you very much. Nathan Wood, thank you for your super chat as well. Thanks a lot for the help the other night with the live scope bag. You're very welcome, Nathan. anytime, buddy, anytime. And if you get that and need any help, let me know. I'd be happy to help. Skeeter. Just Skeeter in here. All right. Let's see. Where was I at? I'm lost. Brian Walker, collar or no collar, what's your favorite? Ooh, that's a big one right there. Hang on just a second. I saw another super chat come in. Brian, I'll be right back to you. Mike Morrison, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. I cannot express how much knowledge I have gained by watching and listening. Thanks, Matt. You're my hero. Well, I appreciate you saying that, Mike, very much. It's a blessing for me to be able to do this for you guys. I absolutely love getting on here and sharing info, talking about, all the technical stuff. I mean, I'm a very technical guy. I have a lot of attention to detail. I always have. And, I believe that helps me in my crappie fishing. I really, really do. It's the small things that I think about. It keep me up at night. It's really, really fun for me to be able to share that with you guys. And I process a lot talking to you guys about these things too. It's not just me getting on here and helping you guys. It helps me too, because I process a lot while we're on our lives, and I get to thinking about stuff. And then I'll be up for another hour and a half when I get off, because I'm thinking, oh man, I said this and we did that, and then this guy asked that question, and yeah, that's a thought, and I wonder if I could do this or do that. I mean, I process a lot with these lives as well, so it's very beneficial to me too, and I appreciate it very much. I'm glad you're gaining a lot of knowledge, and I hope everybody is. That's what we're here for. It's what Wired for Crappie is to help every angler become better, catch more fish. So I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you very much, buddy. And I appreciate the super chat for sure. Let's see. Where was that question at? Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Brian? Where'd you go? Or Byron. I'm sorry. Was I saying your name wrong, Byron? I apologize. Byron asked, collar or no collar, what's your favorite? So depends on what I'm doing, okay? If I'm shooting docks, always collar if I'm shooting docks, because I hate every time you shoot a jig under a dock. That's why I quit using Bobby Garland's, okay? Every time you shoot a jig under a dock, it's sliding down your jig, sliding down your hook, sliding down your hook. And, it got to be where I could feel it in the line. Every time my jig would slide down, I'd be like, well, my jig's messed up. I'd reel in, there'd be hanging off the end. It just reels different. There's a different feel you get. You almost feel like you're dragging it through the water. So always a double cross jig head when I'm shooting docks, period. If I'm shooting a dock, even thinking about shooting a dock that day, I'm tying on a double cross jig. And now, if I'm fishing brush, I'm either way, okay? A double cross jig head, or, a light wire hook from Mr. Curtis with a barb, or even one without a barb, no collar. I will use no collar jigs a lot on brush. That's just because I don't have to worry. I'm pitching or casting. I don't have to worry about shooting a jig, skipping it off the water. I don't have to worry about that jig coming to an abrupt stop on the back of a dock or on a pontoon or something, to where it's going to pop that jig off. A lot of times I'll use a non-collar jig just to keep the bait from tearing a little bit, where I can use it, if I can catch 10 more fish on it because I'm not using a collar that's tearing a big hole in it, then I'll use a non-collared jig. Ashley says, I've seen only twice myself where the jig head color mattered on the bite that I can remember. I think I remember that color mattered in one of your brush pile fishing episodes. Yeah, it did. I had a red jig head up at Douglas. So I filmed 2 different shows with brush pile fishing, guys. I don't know if you've seen them. If you hadn't, you can go to Brush Pile Fishing's website, or you can go to YouTube and type in brush pile fishing and type in Matt Zenas, and those videos will come up. I filmed with Russ 2 different episodes, one on Douglas, one on Watch Bar. Very, very good episodes. Really cool to watch or to film. They were on Outdoor Channel last year and the year before. But very, very cool dude. Absolutely love Russ. He's a great guy and enjoyed filming with him. So, but yes, when we fished up at Douglas, I was using a red jig head and Russ was using a chartreuse jig head, and I was catching fish left and right. And he's like, "What are you doing different?" I was like, "Well, first of all, I've got on a red jig head and you don't." And he's like, "Well, give me a red jig head." So eventually he went to a red jig head too and started catching fish, which was pretty funny. But there's been a lot of times where I've seen the jig head matter. I've seen some funky stuff that has mattered. There was one day fished a tournament on Fort Loudon, won the tournament, and I was fishing with a red and silver jig, but I flipped the jig over and had the red side down, and my partner standing beside me using the same line, same jig, same rod, same head, same everything, and he couldn't get bit. He pulls his jig up, and I said, "Well, that's it. You got the silver side down and not the red side." And he's like, "That don't matter." I said, "Flip it over." And he flipped it over and caught one on the next cast. And it was like, okay. So, and I mean, we tested that theory by flipping a jig over again, silver side down, and didn't get bit, and casted many times. And this is with live scope. I mean, you're in front of the fish. So anyway, those fish were on the bottom of the lake, and you had to fish right above them. You couldn't, it was just one of them days where that red, they saw it, and at that depth and that water clarity, that red stood out, and they'd come and hit it. That's all it was. So I've seen some weird things happen, and jig head sometimes does matter. Yeah, color. John says, crappie are colorblind. If it looks like something they're interested in, they'll eat it. So, John, I've told people for a long time, I'm a believer in contrasting colors, contrasting the water, not necessarily the color. It's the contrast that color, how that color shows up in the water. So that's kind of what you're saying here is crappie are colorblind, and it's all about how that jig head shows up to them in the water, okay? Contrasting the water with your colorings. And I'm, as far as crappie being colorblind, I don't know that that's been proven. I don't know that I haven't read any research that has shown that. It could be, I don't know, so I'm not going to talk to the cold colorblind part. But I'm a believer in contrasting the water and contrasting to where those fish can see your jig, okay? Pete K, the $1 million question. Do you fish Norris around Stardust Marina? May be there in October. I actually don't fish Norris, and Pete, I'll tell you why. Because Norris, it has fish in it, but it is an extremely deep, clear, straight off bluff reservoir. I mean, it is not your typical, wade out into the lake and go swim in reservoir. It's more like tie a rope swing to the tree, swing off, fall 50 feet, and hit the water type reservoir. I mean, it's not really, it's not my favorite lake to be on. Let's just put it that way. And there's probably going to be a comment or two pop up somewhere along the line down through here. But Norris is not my favorite, no. So I typically don't fish Norris. Have I fished Norris? Yes. Did I go home, wishing I fished another lake most of the time? Yes. Did I catch fish? Yes. But it's not my favorite reservoir down here, for sure. It's one of the tougher to catch crappie on, too. There's just not a very high population. Yep, Ashley knew it. Uh-oh, Pete K, here it comes. Crappie Kev, I sometimes super glue my plastics to the jig when I shoot docks. Yes, I used to do the same thing until I started using bonehead stump bugs. Bonehead tackle, period. When I started using bonehead tackle, I actually quit super gluing because the density of a bonehead jig will hold it on the jig alone. So I don't know. I don't know if you've used bonehead tackle jigs, Crappie Kev, but if you haven't, just get one pack. That's all I ask. Get one pack and try them out. I promise you, shooting docks, you'll be able to get rid of the super glue. So. Jeff Johnson asked the same question. Do I ever super glue? I used to. I don't anymore because a bonehead jig again will stay on. Will stay on the jig, no doubt. Pete K said super glue stays in his boat. Guys, I promise you, just try it. Just get one pack of bonehead stump bugs and shoot docks with them. Just one. Pick your favorite color, get one pack, and try it. Mark, what's going on? He says he's running behind. Better late than never, my friend. Thanks for being here. He said, thanks. We'll be there with the boat as a buddy has an on-water cabin. We're staying there for a week. You're not very far from a couple really good lakes. I mean, if you wanted to catch a boatload of crappie, trailer on down to Douglas or Cherokee, there's absolutely just loads and loads of fish in those two lakes, and you can catch a lot of fish. Docks, brush, fine structure. All right, let's give away some jigs real quick. So let's see. What do I want to? All right, first pack of jigs. And what we're going to do, the first answer that I see pop up, okay? The first answer I see pop up on my screen. Now, guys, I want to tell everybody because some people are probably new. Hang on, got a couple comments here. I want to answer this one. Scent or no scent, what do you recommend? I got a video on that, Byron. After the live, go to my channel and go to, what is the name of that video? I don't remember. That's bad, isn't it? Hey, guys, this week was our 100th video. Did you guys catch that? 100 videos on Wired for Crappie. This week's video dropped 100. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but 100 uploads. Wow. 100. Getting on up there. All right. The video is called Do They Really Work? Crappie Nibbles and Scents. Okay. I'll show you the thumbnail. There's the thumbnail. Do they really work? Crappie Nibbles and Scents. Go watch that video, Byron. Please, after the live, go watch that video and that'll answer your question. I promise. Okay. And then next week, I want you to come back. Next Wednesday, I want you to come back and tell me what you thought. All right. What East Tennessee body of water do you feel has the highest crappie population? The highest crappie population is probably Chick or Tellico. But because they have the highest population, they actually probably have the smallest family of fish. Okay. Tellico, I mean, it's the land of the 9 3/4, and Chickamauga this past year has been land of the 8.5 inchers. There's just a blue million fish in the lake, but a lot of small fish. So the highest population would be Chickamauga or Tellico. The best lake that's in between for keepers is probably Douglas and Loudon this year. And those would be my keepers and shorts and population numbers for the year. Changes every year, really. All right. So, like I was saying, first comment that I see with the correct answer come across my screen, all right, is going to win a pack of pumpkin and chartreuse stump bugs. Who can tell me the fastest on my screen here? Who can tell me the 4 types of jig heads? Size or shape, excuse me. 4 shapes, 4 main shapes of jig head. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see who remembers all 4. And I'm on a lag, so it takes me a minute to start getting comments. Four shapes. Josh, you got one wrong. No. There it is. So I had Josh first, but Willow is not a head. That is a blade. And then Crappie Kev said round aspirin minnow horse head, which is kind of right, but not. It's not a horse head. So then Mike comes in, round, minnow, aspirin, and pony. It is correct. Round, minnow, aspirin, and pony. So Mike, info@wiredforcrappie.com. Shoot me an email with your contact info so that I can contact you and get these to you. Okay, Mike? So send me an email with your contact and I will get in touch with you. We'll get those shipped out to you in the mail. All right. And then Josh said, typed it wrong, going too fast. That's funny. All right. So I shouldn't have given y'all that 100th video thing. I should have asked you guys for a bag of stump bugs if that was how many videos I had out. That would have been a good one. Oh, well. All right. Bonehead stump bug, pack number 2. Well, I already told you guys that I used a crappie magnet in the last video. Who can tell me what color that crappie magnet was that I used so unwillingly? Can anybody tell me what color it was? Because I actually held it up and told you what color it was in the last video. Who watched the last video? We're about to find out. What color was that crappie magnet? Oh, Dave D got that one real quick. Where'd you go, Dave? There you are. Dave D, black and chartreuse. Info@wiredforcrappie, my friend. Shoot me an email with your contact info. I'll get in touch with you, and we will get that out to you. Hey, look, my wife knew what color it was. Black and chartreuse, question mark, question mark. She knows me too well, guys. She just said that because she knows that's what I use the most. Yeah, so anyway, all right, guys, that's going to do it for this live. I appreciate you guys for watching. It's been about an hour and a half, so we were on a little longer tonight. Hope you guys don't mind. I know it's late, but I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you all for being a part of the Wired Fam, for being a part of the lives, and we'll be here next week. Same time, same place. Watch out for the video this week coming. It's going to be a good one as well. I'm not going to spoiler alert that one, but it's going to be a great video this week. Looking forward to it coming out and you guys seeing it. And love the comments on the videos. Thank y'all very much for all the comments on the videos. Guys, don't forget, share. Please share the videos If we're going to grow to 10,000 subscribers by December, I need your help. I need your help sharing the videos, getting the word out there, talking about Wired, sending people to watch videos. If you have a video that you just say, man, that was pretty cool, tell people about it. Share it on your Facebook pages. Get it out there. Help get it out there. You can share the videos from YouTube, and I would appreciate anything and everything that you guys can do to help. So please, 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 when you can, let's help grow the channel. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all next week, and we'll see you on the video this week. So I appreciate you again. God bless, and we'll see you guys later. Have a good night.